Hey guys, and welcome to another video. Like I said, I was going to rank all the stories from Star Wars Visions. I said it, but there are 18 of them. Considering the quantity, I decided that ranking them one by one would be way too difficult. So I just decided to instead tell you my 10 favorite. That's right. I'll just tell you my 10 favorite stories which are told in individual episodes of Star Wars Visions, and this will include from both Season 1 and Season 2, because both Season 1 and Season 2 of Star Wars Visions had some really amazing stories with some really great animation. Season 1 was only anime, but Season 2 went more international and took from many different studios from all over the world. So, I will now tell you my top 10 favorite stories of Star Wars Visions. So number 10, Aur's Song, the very last episode of Season 2. Yeah, this is from some South African studio that I never heard about, but it's really creative. It's about this child that has passion for singing, but her father doesn't want her to sing because he's afraid they'll be caught by the Empire. But she, the little girl, has so much passion for singing, and the animation is actually kind of like very creative, and it's almost like puppets, very much like puppets. And honestly, this is, even though it's a South African studio, this almost felt like a Pixar short. That's right, if Pixar wanted to do a Star Wars movie, this very much felt like it. So, and honestly, I wouldn't blame anybody who thought it was made by Pixar if it wasn't said what company made this. And it's also so cute. This is probably the most like light and completely without action of all the episodes on this very list. Because there were some other episodes without action, like Tatooine Rhapsody or I'm Your Mother. But I wasn't a very huge fan of those. Yeah, those didn't appeal to me. But this one I thought was pretty cute and creative. So yeah, Aur's Song, good job. You made me really appreciate you, even though there is no action, and that's something what I want from Star Wars most of the time. So Aur's Song at number 10. And at number 9, Lop and Ocho. Yeah, what I like about Lop and Ocho is that story is very much Star Wars, and it obviously takes place during the Empire. But thing is, if you look at animation, Lop and character designs, it looks like very much classical anime, like very much something you'd expect out of a Studio Ghibli movie. Look, for example, at this one photo. Look at this photo. Yep, if you see it out of the context, then you very much would never expect that this is supposed to be a Star Wars story, and I wouldn't either. Like, if you see this photo just out there without any context, it looks very much like a classic anime movie, like most likely from the Studio Ghibli, Studio Ghibli, I don't know exactly how it's called, but from this studio, yeah. But yet, if you actually watch the full episode fully in context, it's very, very much a Star Wars story, and it shows how much Empire ruined and divided families. And the story of the episode is tragic and so sad. Like, it's about those two sisters who very much loved each other, but then when the sister joined the Empire, she basically stopped loving her family. And it's actually pretty tragic too, how initially she begs her father to adopt her alien sister into the family, but then many years later she joins the Empire, and then she outright says that her sister isn't her real sister. This is really tragic, and it also reflects how many lives the Empire has ruined and how much it divided families. And in some ways it could be related to current political climate, how politics can divide people. So yes, very good episode of Star Wars Visions. And fun fact, when I first saw the trailer, like almost 2 years ago at this point for Season 1, and saw the design of the alien sister. I believe her name is Lop. Yeah, Lop. And so designed for Lop, I really thought, geez, she looks so silly. Probably I will like this episode the least. But I was wrong. It's actually a very well done episode with an amazing story. And then number 8, and that's another one from season 1, and that's The Village Bride. Yeah, I love The Village Bride. The animation is great, and similar how with Lop and Ocho, if you just look at the one screenshot as opposed to watching the entire short, it very much looks like an anime movie, and it doesn't seem like anything to do with Star Wars. But again, if you actually watch the story, it's very much Star Wars. It's about a Jedi protecting a village from a warlord who reprogrammed separatist droids to serve him and use it to attack the village. So, and the music in this episode is also fantastic. So yeah, this episode has fabulous music, so congratulations to the music. But it also has a great story, great animation. I love The Village Bride. And I think it's pretty underrated because it doesn't seem actually like most people list it among their favorites. And number 7, The Bandits of Golak, and that's another one of season 2. Yeah, I love the animation, as many people said. This animation very much gives me the Clone Wars vibes, and you already know by now like how much I love the Clone Wars show and what a huge fan I am of that show. And the animation here very much gave me the Clone Wars vibes, though it's really not the reason why it's here. It's more of that I love the story of this episode. I love the story of an older brother trying to protect his little sister, and then an inquisitor coming and trying to kidnap his sister, and then a Jedi coming to their rescue, and that ends in a really amazing duel. And then in a really amazing lightsaber duel. And then also the design of the Inquisitor is fabulous, I think. I really love it. And the chemistry between brother and sister here is great. The ending is pretty bittersweet and heartbreaking, but I think it works very wonderfully for the story. And I also love how it's kind of like, because it's from an Indian animation studio, and although the animation is very much the Clone Wars, you can see a lot of cultural Indian influence. So yeah, I love The Bandits of Golak. Though, one thing I have to say, as much as I adore the Clone Wars and the animation from the Clone Wars, I do hope they don't overuse the style, because one of the most wonderful things about Star Wars Visions is how every animation style here is different. So, The Bandits of Golak, great episode of Season 2 of Star Wars Visions. And then number 6, and that's another one I didn't expect to like as much as I ended up loving, and that's The Spy Dancer, and that's from French Animated Studio. And honestly, like, this very much seems like something that came from France, like the animation style, and even the story very much is clearly based on a classic French cabaret. Yeah, this is obvious that this came from France, and the animation strongly gives me vibes of The King and the Mockingbird, which is a fantastic French animated movie that most of you haven't seen, but I personally love it. It's in my top 10 favorite animated movies, and the animation gave me huge The King and the Mockingbird vibes, and also the story is simply great and actually pretty deep. Like, initially it's about this spy dancer who decides to spy on the Empire. She's like a dancer for the Empire, but secretly decides to spy on them. But then there are some twists and turns, and we learn so much more. And I don't even want to say what, because it will involve huge spoilers. Now, I already did spoil a lot about these episodes. This is one of those episodes that's really more fun if you experience for yourself without any spoilers. So I will say the story is amazing, and there are lots of twists and turns you're not going to expect. So yeah, The Spy Dancer is great, and it's incredible how much I didn't expect it will be one of my favorites of season 2. Yet here we are. Number 5. And that's likely the most classic Star Wars story on all this list, because all the other ones on here, although they take place in Star Wars universe, and they most strongly perfectly fit in the Star Wars universe, but this one feels like basically a pure Star Wars story. So yes, this is the as Star Wars as you can get, the one we're talking about now, and that's season 1's The Elder. Yes, the reason I say it's so Star Wars and basically as Star Wars as you can get is because it's basically a story about the Jedi Master and his Padawan and how they end up on a mysterious planet and then fight a mysterious Sith Lord, and of course they defeat him, although the Jedi Master actually tells his apprentice that the only reason he was able to beat the Sith Lord was because he was old, but it's obvious that in younger years he would probably have a higher chance of winning, hence with the episode The Elder. Like, the design on the Sith is just great, like he looks very much like a classic Sith Lord, and the relationship between the Master and his apprentice is also great, and the time this episode takes place is obviously somewhere before Phantom Menace, which now is known the High Republic era, although I don't know much about the High Republic era, didn't hear very good things about it, but if there was a good story in the but if I had to go by this story alone, then this actually was very great. This was awesome. Well, even though I didn't hear very good things about High Republic time in general, but The Elder is a pretty great episode of Visions and definitely the most Star Wars-like. So, The Elder at number 5. At number 5, and that's very similar to Spy Dancer, and that's The Screecher's Reach, although, and this is from an Irish studio, and yeah, this episode had very strong Irish vibes, like the length, like the animation and the setting very much resembled Irish Highlands. Yep, that's right. And even the atmosphere felt so Irish, and also I love the relationship between the main character and her friends. It was so well done. And then the story is also great, and then like the Spy Dancer before it, or actually after it, because Spy Dancer comes after it, but on my list is before it. Then there are lots of twists and turns, and the ending is super heartbreaking and tragic. But again, I won't spoil it, even though I will say very heartbreaking and tragic ending. But overall, and Screecher's Reach is also one of those episodes that you appreciate as you watch more. When I first watched it, I thought it was pretty average, but then when I watched it the second time and started paying a lot more attention, I realized that this was a very amazing episode, especially that also with the final twist at the end, I did not notice something that I most certainly did notice a second time. But Screecher's Reach is an amazing episode of Star Wars Visions, and it's so deep, so tragic, and so well done. So yeah, Screecher's Reach at number 4. Number 3, and that's similar to The Elder, that's also very much a Star Wars story, and that's the Ninth Jedi of Season 1. Yeah, the Ninth Jedi is... It's not clear when exactly does it take place in the Star Wars timeline. It could very much take place many years in the future, or in the past, doesn't matter really, but the story is basically like how the Jedi heard a call, and they all decided to gather up and find their Jedi Master. And then there's a girl whose father crafts lightsaber for the Jedi, and her job is to deliver the lightsabers to the Jedi. But what's really cool about this episode is that there is another wicked awesome twist at the end, and a very unexpected one. Again, I will not spoil it. I mean, there are lots of spoilers already on this list, but for the sake of keeping some of the things at least secrets, I will not say. But the Ninth Jedi has a great animation, very much anime style, and yet totally feels like Star Wars, because in contrast to some of the other episodes, this, even if you look at the picture out of the context, this could very easily seem classic Star Wars, kind of like with The Elder actually, The Elder even more so, but it's too. So yeah, The Ninth Jedi is a fantastic episode of Star Wars Visions, and after The Elder, it's probably the most Star Wars-like. Number 2, and what list of best Star Wars Visions episodes would be complete without the very first one that started it all, the Duel. yeah, the Duel is simply magnificent. Like, the animation is fabulous. It gives me huge Ninja Scroll vibes. Yeah, Ninja Scroll, by the way, is one of my very favorite anime movies. And and I love how it's totally in black and white. Very much adding that it totally feels like a samurai story, which it technically is basically a samurai story in the Star Wars universe. And the duel between the Ronin and the Sith is simply excellent. And even though it's certainly one of the most simple episodes of this entire show, it's still fantastic, because really for the animation style alone, and for the story, even though if it's very simple, I already said before, sometimes a simple story is really all you need to really make something good quality. And this is perfect example, because you have fantastic animation, creative style, amazing action, and even pretty likable main character. So yeah, I love the Ronin. And also, fun fact, I know this is most certainly very much set in the alternate universe. It most certainly doesn't take place in the Star Wars universe, and that's okay. In fact, it kind of gives writers total creative freedom while still very much staying true to the spirit of Star Wars, in contrast to many of the current Disney projects. But this is awesome and very much classic Star Wars, even if it doesn't necessarily take place in the same timeline as the movies. But I love the Duel. But my favorite Star Wars Visions episode is probably, although it is pretty hard, because then my number 2 and number 3 and even number 4, any of them could really be here at number 1, but ultimately I think I'll go with Season 2's Journey to the Dark Head. Yeah, this episode is excellent. The storytelling is masterful. Like, it's about this female mechanic and a male Jedi teaming up together and going on a mission, and then they discover that so much lore about the Force and how light and darkness are needed for a balance together. What I love about it is that this actually dives so much into Star Wars lore, and also it gave me huge Old Republic vibes. Yep, that's right. Like, this is very much something I would expect to take place during the Old Republic. And if you have seen some of my previous videos, you might know I'm a huge fan of the Knights of the Old Republic games. But if you haven't, I'll say that right now. I adore Knights of the Old Republic games. They're some of my favorite Star Wars stories ever. And this episode gave me gigantic Old Republic vibes. And as I said, also the dynamic between the Jedi and the mechanic is excellent. Like, they don't like each other, but then they grew to like each other. It's so wonderfully done. The tone is fantastic. The animation is gorgeous, and even the design on the Sith that pursues them is wonderful. So yeah, Journey to the Dark Head is probably my favorite Star Wars Visions episode, although this could easily change, because all of those Star Wars Vision episodes on this list are great. So ultimately, here you have my top 10 favorite Star Wars Visions episodes. So, tell me guys, what are your favorite Star Wars Visions episodes? Did you prefer Season 1, Season 2? Do you hope for more? Maybe from what other countries' animation studios do you think should do Star Wars Visions? I'm personally really hoping they might take a studio from Poland next time. And because honestly, the diversity of international studios they picked, I don't think it's really that far-fetched for them to really now pick a Polish studio, which I'm really hoping for. But yeah, I love Star Wars Visions. What are some of your favorite Star Wars Visions episodes? Please press the like button if you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to this channel, and I'll talk to you soon in another video. Talk to you later, bye!